Now he is doing extremely well in kindergarten. Because Scott Heidepriem believes that education is an investment, because he believes in programs like Birth to 3, and because he believes in the importance of establishing pre-K standards, he will get my vote next Tuesday.
And now we will hear from Pate Walker.
Hello, I'm Minnie Kanju Lakota from Cheyenne River Reservation in Sioux Falls, Central South Dakota. I've lived and experienced much of the horrors and the bad negative consequences of what state and federal government lacking can do to people in those communities. Most of my family still resides on that reservation, and it makes me sad that their situations are consistently third world. I'm here because it's important for me, and especially my Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people, that issues specific, especially to Native women, are brought from the back burner and into the limelight of our leaders' minds. And I believe that Scott Heidepriem has committed to doing this. Violence towards women is a major issue across ethnic lines. However, Native American women are 2.5 times more likely to be raped or sexually assaulted than any other woman of any other ethnicity. This number is thought to be low, considering the woefully overwhelmed and underfunded tribal law enforcement agencies on the reservations, and the historical and learned mistrust of non-Native run agencies in urban towns. Along with those statistics, it should be noted that sex education and access to women-related care is virtually non-existent on reservations. And with the median age of Native Americans in the mid-20s, we're talking about a consistently at-risk population of women and their children. Native mothers see their children suffer the worst graduation rates of any student in South Dakota. According to the State Department of Education, graduation rates for Natives statewide is 65%, and that's compared to 89% overall. In Sioux Falls, locally, Native students graduate at just 48% compared to the 85% district-wide. Thankfully, districts like Sioux Falls recognize the disparities and are working to incorporate Native curriculum in all grade levels, and hope not only to create a more relatable environment, but also to make children across the state learn what the first descendants of South Dakota went through and continue to go through. Worse than the graduation rate, however, is the suicide rate, especially for teenagers on reservations. They're 2.5 times more likely than the national average to commit suicide, 300 times more likely to have suicide ideations. This is terrible. This is why I believe that Scott Heidepriem will have much positive impact than what we are currently seeing. And I strongly believe that as Governor Scott Heidepriem's proposals for Indian country are legitimate and get to the heart of the issues faced daily by Native American families in the state. Thank you.
And next we will hear from Paula Jones. Sorry, Johnson. There.
Good morning, I'm Paula Johnson. I served 20 years on active duty in the United States Army. And with that, I am one of 6,000 women veterans in South Dakota. This number is going to grow significantly as Iraq and Afghanistan wars continue, and more women are a part of that war. Currently, about 14% of the active duty forces are women, which has grown since I was on active duty by about 3 or 4%. About 10% of the National Guard, State National Guard, and reserves are women. With that, we have to take on a responsibility to take care of the women veterans when they come home. Excuse me. The women veterans have, since the very beginning, have served in our military and have served to maintain the strength of that this country needs for its security. They've also taken on jobs in the military that probably many people would be surprised about. As they return to South Dakota, we have to make sure that they are able to move on to jobs, and not just jobs, actually careers. These women are capable, they're leaders, they've had responsibilities that will probably exceed far more than any civilian job. And as opposed to letting these women go into jobs that may only pay minimum wage, and where they come home to rural areas where they have to work 1 and 2 and 3 jobs in order to make a living and take care of their families, we have to step up to the needs of these women. One, we can start getting them into school. We need to get them involved in renewable energy. We need to get them involved in research and development, and they can take responsibility and fulfill the needs we have for teachers, for nurses, for medical people, in any number of fields. Some of the issues that we have not had to deal with women veterans before are prenatal and obstetric care, because women veterans today are younger and younger. With that, we have to be concerned about the issue that we found was so horrific during Vietnam, is homelessness. Women veterans are going to be a part of that issue, and it already are across the nation, and we have to make sure that's not happening in South Dakota. We must not let women veterans, or veterans as a whole, slip through the cracks. I know that Scott Heidepriem is a strong supporter of veterans, and with that, that is our hope as a veteran, to ensure that the people who are coming home from war when they come home, I am sorry. Women veterans must be given a chance. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. The issue of women veterans cannot be pushed aside. Frequently, coming home from active duty, women are accustomed to being part of the troops as a whole. They are one with the man. They are not supposed to be different than the others. Another aspect that we have to be concerned about is their general health care. And this is where the VAs across the country are stepping up and forming specific needs, hiring doctors, hiring PAs, and identifying specific areas even in the hospital where they have their own care, because that's one issue where they are not one of the men. Some of the issues that I think will solve the problems and make things better for women veterans, and I know that Scott will endorse, establish a separate Department of Veterans Affairs to address the needs of women veterans. And that includes a woman from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq and Afghanistan. Select a woman representative to serve on the Veterans Commission. Develop a veterans preference system in South Dakota, which we do not have one now. And when asked over the last few years how many veterans are hired by the state of South Dakota, we find that we can't get an answer. I know that Scott will turn that around. We also have to identify a means of establishing a veterans home. As a number of veterans as they age, whether it be World War II or Korean War, getting to the point where they may need nursing care. And what we need on the eastern side of South Dakota is a veterans home in some form or another. And I know that Scott will support that. Our veterans raised their right hand and took an oath to support this country, and we must do the same in return.
As you can see, we are all passionate about these issues that we bring forward. And now we're going to hear from Shirley Helene.
Good morning. I'm Shirley Helene, and I well remember almost 30 years ago when I was introduced to the new youngest legislator who was sitting across the aisle from me in the South Dakota legislature. He was a bright, articulate young man, 26 years old, fresh out of school. And after the session was over, I remember saying to him the unforgivable thing for my party. I leaned across to him and said, "You know, Scott, if you ever run for governor, I'll vote for you." And the time has come. Even at a young age, he was knowledgeable on issues ranging from health care to education to transportation to budget concerns. He also was a strong supporter of women's issues, which was not popular at that time. I had been fortunate as a candidate in the late 70s to have the backing of the National Women's Political Caucus, the NOW group, and groups that had